You're listening to the Business Consulting Buzz podcast at www.consulting-business.com. Hi everyone, it's Michael Zapersky from Business Consulting Buzz. On today's show, we have Rupert Whiting. Rupert is a business coach that works with dentists and family-owned businesses with 10 million plus in sales. He focuses his efforts on making business in his city more profitable and systematically sustainable for the benefit of the local community. His passion is to help ambitious business people to live the life that they want to live, to create the businesses that they have always dreamed of, and to create great jobs for others in the process. Rupert is part of Focal Point, a business coaching system and franchise created by Brian Tracy. Rupert, welcome.
Hi, Michael.
So, Rupert, you won an award for the highest sales record. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that was back about 6 months or so after I really joined the Focal Point franchise, and I really sort of knuckled down after a while and, sort of made things happen. I used the system and broke at the time it was the most that any coach had sold in a given week of ongoing monthly coaching. I was pretty pleased with that.
Very nice. Okay. Can you give us a bit more specifics around, how many clients that meant for you or revenue or any details around that?
Yeah, sure. So it was, the time it was one partnership of 3 partners, and I was charging them $5,000 a month for coaching. And I landed 2 other clients, where I was, one I was coaching one of 2 partners, and the other one I was coaching a single one. So I had like a 3 and a 2 and a 1, and the 2 and the 1 I was charging them $2,500 a month each. So that was $10,000 per month of income, and I signed all of those in the same week, and that was a massive win for me. And
great, yeah.
You can imagine that was a pretty big hike in my income.
Right. And so how did you feel? Did you celebrate that in any way?
Yeah, well, one of the good things about the Focal Point brand is that, when you feel good about things like that, you've got a whole team of people you can celebrate it with, and it inspires them and, resets the bar for everybody else. So I pumped it around the Focal Point system, not to brag, but to sort of send the vibes. And, went out and had a nice meal with my wife.
Very nice. You also told me that you helped a client double their rate and their revenue. What happened in that situation?
Well, that was actually one of that was the single guy who, of those 3, he's a small farmer out in Abbotsford looking to, he still does grow really great organic greens hydroponically. It's funny when you mention hydroponics, everybody assumes it's not for,
right.
It isn't for food consumption, but this is great. Anyway, by working with him just on the capacity models and other sources of channels to market, I really was encouraging him. Look, you've got to, the more you grow, the more you'll sell. Whereas he was stuck in that, look, I don't want to grow anything I can't sell kind of model. And within weeks, he had doubled his production, and it's only gone on since there. He's probably at about 3 times, grown about 3 times more now than he was when I first started working with him. I don't work with him any longer, just purely because of the he reached a plateau which was as much as he could handle. So
right.
There wasn't the return on the investment on the coaching that he was able to take on. But he's sustaining that at about 3 times his volumes right now.
If we could dig into that just for a moment, so everyone listening to this can have a better understanding of, what you did to enable your client, in this case, to really grow their business. You're saying kind of 3 times from where they were before. What was it specifically? If you could kind of outline the issues that they were having, and then what you did, the kind of what you applied in order to get them to where they are today.
So yes, I was saying it was really just asking the questions and about why there wasn't a more of a production bent, and then creating a sales problem, because without production churning out, the sales team, and in this case it was the same guy, but without the production problem, he wasn't really pushing the sales, and it was easy at the end of the month, or the end of the week rather, because this was a real fast turnaround product. He wasn't presented with a bunch of product which was waste, which I knew, and as happened, it drove him to I can't waste this, I've got to get out there, I've got to pound the pavements more, I've got to have more aggressive conversations with my clients about them buying more. So it was really understanding psychology to a limited degree, and also under having seen it in many businesses before. It's like create the right kind of problems in your business, because you're always going to have problems, but create the right kinds of problems. Like, hey, I've got more product than I can handle. Now I've got to get out and sell it. Without that problem, he wasn't selling it.
So, why did he have that problem? Why did he think that he didn't need to grow anymore? What was the issue in his mind going on that you helped him realize?
Well, there was two things. One, he had a business partner who was very conservative, who not necessarily like in a partnership, but another stakeholder in the business who was very conservative and who was waiting to help him with the grow when he had the contracts in place. And I fundamentally disagreed with that as a strategy. It was like create the product, then go sell it, because until you see it with your own eyes, it's just an academic exercise. So really, he was being kept small by somebody who was actually trying to act in his best interests by saying, let's not waste, let's count every penny, which I like that way of thinking. It runs counter, and I value that in my teams. I do recognize that there's time to be conservative, but in this particular case, as you will know, Michael, it was an overplayed strength. Conservatism, when it's overplayed, becomes restrictionism.
Right. And I think people listening to this are gonna kind of feel that this is resonating with them, because a lot of people would feel, well, why should we go off and go ahead and build something if we don't yet know whether or not we can sell it? I mean, these days, especially in entrepreneurship and startups, the whole idea of validating the market before you go out and expand capacity. What you were telling this client is, hey, expand your capacity, go on and produce more, and then figure out where to sell it. Wasn't there some, a potential risk there? Or, what kind of conversations were going on between you and the client there? Because it does seem that is a bit counterintuitive to go ahead and develop the product further without even knowing whether or not they could sell it.
Well, remember, it wasn't developing a growing plant. You're going to get the same product. It's just you're going to have more of it. But the margins were such that you didn't need to sell all of it. But also the market was totally empty. He wasn't like he had saturated a market for it. He just wasn't exploiting the market that was there aggressively enough. So I just knew that it was a matter of him banging on doors and having more urgent conversation with that. There was no urgency there. So to my mind, the risk was pretty low.
Right.
And we're talking about hundreds of dollars of seeds being wasted. We're not talking about a situation where we were driving him anywhere close to going under. It was just turning on the tap a little bit further, and the amount that was eventually wasted. I mean, he could consume, I could consume. It wasn't. We could get rid of it somehow as a marketing expense, or And I did that several times. I took it down to restaurants that I knew and said, "Look, this here's a free sample. Just tell me how much of this you want when you're going to pay for it," kind of thing. And so we managed to use everything that he grew. Just in more, we were forced to get more creative as to how we did that.
Right. I think what's really interesting in this story for everyone that's listening, is kind of as a takeaway, is sometimes we need to get out of our comfort zones, because if in this case your client would not gotten out of their comfort zone and just kind of stayed in there, they potentially wouldn't have seen this massive growth in their business and all the benefits that came along with it. So, for whether it's for a consultant or a coach or any independent professional, business owner, if you're really weighing the risks and looking at the benefits, sometimes extending yourself a little bit and getting out of that comfort zone can really bring substantial rewards.
Absolutely. And build on that point.
Yeah, go ahead.
To build on that point, there were risks of standing still too. He was wearing out, he was uninspired, and he gained a new lease of life by actually having to he was more engaged as a result of having this extra throughput. So yes, there was risks of growing, but there was also risk of standing still.
Definitely. Okay. All right. So Rupert, let's go back in time now and look at how you got started. You were actually in the military.
That's right. British military. Yeah.
Okay. British military. And tell us a little bit more about how you got from there into the world of business.
Well, I left the military when I couldn't get a promotion because I was too young. So I realized that the army was too big a bureaucracy for somebody with my personality type. So I got out, joined a small management consultancy, long story short, and then ended up emigrating over here about 7 years ago. And somehow I'd found my way into the print industry, selling print. And again, left there, and I moved to CIBC and left there. But before I moved to CIBC, I'd started coaching for free. It was what I did. It's what I did for fun. Was I'd help people set bigger goals for themselves. I'd talk to them about business over a beer. Anybody who wanted to talk, I'd talk. And so I realized this is what I'm doing for free. This is what I do for fun. More importantly, why wouldn't I do it as a job? Because I don't know what else I want to do. So I swallowed that Bible on, if you do what you enjoy, you never work another day in your life. And I said, well, if money was no object, I would go find people who don't run the business that they deserve to run. They're brighter than that. They deserve better out of their business. I'll go and help them. And then about 3 weeks after I decided that's what I wanted to do, the business coaching franchise kind of landed in my lap.
Okay, and so I guess, is that also a result of doing those free sessions? Is that how you ended up getting your first real paid client as well?
Let me think. Well, my first paid client actually was a friend at a dinner party. He said, hey, would you mind having this kind of conversation with my boss, because he's really struggling, doesn't like what he sees when he talks to consultants, but you seem to talk a different kind of sense. So that's my first paid client. That was before I was officially a coach. And then, let me think, my first client as a coach, that was a hot knock. I just went to businesses that I liked to frequent. This one was a male clothes shop, and got chatting with the owner and said, hey, this is what I'm doing now with my life. And they're like, hey, I know Brian Tracy. I could do with a business coach. Why don't we? So we sat down and we did, albeit that first one, I will admit, was part cash, part clothing. But you know, that you get creative. If I was going to spend money there anyway, it reduces their cash flow impact, and it helped me land my first professional client.
So how important or how big has the Brian Tracy brand been for you? I mean, that's kind of one question, but the other area that I just would like to explore, and for everyone listening, I think would be interested as well, is why get involved in this franchise? Why not just go off on your own and, be an independent coach and consultant and do your own thing? Why did you choose to get involved with the Brian Tracy franchise?
Self-knowledge. I know that, I didn't realize how hard coaching was going to be. Because I enjoyed it so much, I thought it would be easy. But I know myself. I know I'm a team player. So, like when I broke that sales record, I wanted to tell people, and to have other people who would celebrate with me, not just friends and family, was a big deal for me. Also, I've picked up the phone to my franchisor. It's only happened once, but maybe after. In fact, you know what it was? It was about 2 weeks before I broke that sales record. I picked up the phone and I just went, "Man, this is tough. Man, I'm banging my head against a brick wall." And he could turn around to me and say, "Look, I have this conversation with everybody at some point." And he rattled off the names of our sort of franchise superstar coaches. It's like, I've had this conversation with them, and they all got through. You'll get through it too. And then 2 weeks later, of course, I go and break 3 weeks later, I break the sales record. So just having that ability, I don't know that I could have done anything like I have done if I was a single with a shingle, so to speak. If I'm not so disciplined or detail-oriented to want to create a brand for myself and logos and all that sort of stuff. So I knew that I was going to have to spend that money anyway, and probably a lot of time. Why not just go and take the one that Brian's created? So that's one reason. I'm a team player, and I'm also low on the real attention to detail scale. So I didn't want to build my whole business. I wanted a business in a box. And the second point is something that's really interesting. Today, we had Brian call for an hour, and I had a friend's boardroom full of clients and prospects, and we listened to Brian talk for an hour. We then about sales, and we then debriefed for an hour. That's part of the package. It's a little value add I can bring. And for me, it's worth every penny of the franchise fee, because we get those little extras. But primarily for me, it was the sense of team and the sense of identity and belonging.
And you mentioned that you were going up again, kind of knocking your head against the wall, having a lot of challenges, and you're saying that coaching was really difficult. What exactly were you finding so difficult in those early days?
Well, coaching is only maybe 30% of what we do. The rest of the time we're sales and marketing ourselves. And the finding out what works. I mean, there's so many people, I'm sure people are listening, so many people out there telling you what you should do to market a professional services firm. It's hard to see the wood for the trees. You try things, you've got to get through a lot of no's before you get to yeses. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. And, I think that to have the institutional knowledge that it was the situation, not me, that was that created that was very valuable for me.
Okay, so the challenge was getting clients at the beginning.
Yeah, but
I
think it all. I haven't, to be frank, Michael, I haven't licked that challenge yet. I have far more than I used to. In fact, it's 99% of my business is referrals, but I still don't have the pipeline that I would like, simply because the more you coach, the less you get out there. The less you get out there, the less opportunity you have to meet new people to coach them. So it's that roller coaster that everybody's on, I think.
Is the work that you're doing now with clients, the processes that you use and just the way that you run your business, is it different now than it was when you got started?
Very, very. I hired a virtual assistant about 2 or 3 months ago, and that's transformed my business in terms of allowing me to do what I enjoy doing and palm off that which I don't enjoy doing, which actually was sapping my energy and making me not enjoy the job, the role. So I would have done that sooner. I am recognizing some of I'm talking very frankly with you here, because we're sort of talking amongst peers, but not good at attention to detail, but some of my clients, my ability to enter a session with one client he's getting better now. Before I would just bound in and try and wing it. It was just stupid, but the focal point system is strong enough that I didn't need to do that. But my personality type is not one to take copious notes and spend an hour debriefing myself after a session. It's just move on to the next thing, and then come back next week and go, where were we at again? And so I've improved.
Right.
I've improved over that a lot in those.
So Rupert, just to stop you for a second, because the connection's kind of losing a little bit there. What you were saying is that just the attention to detail wasn't necessarily your strong suit, something that you're improving on, but now, as opposed to where you would have just maybe walked into a meeting before without as much preparation, these days you're preparing a lot more and finding that's much more beneficial to your business and your time with your clients.
Yes, absolutely. And the biggest thing is my personal sense of mental calm, because I know I'm prepared and I know I'm not going to drop anything. Whereas before I was enjoying it, but I was winging it. The clients were loving it. The clients were getting great value, but I was still petrified every time I went in case this was the time when they wouldn't get value. Now I know that's not happening.
Right. Let's talk about your virtual assistant that you just brought on recently. Tell us a little bit more about what was going on, within your own life that made you want to hire and bring on a virtual assistant, and then specifically, what has this person been able to do? What kinds of tasks and what kinds of things are you having them do that is helping your business?
Great. Yeah, sure. I was disorganized and I was avoiding things, but also remember you and I met up in that restaurant, and we hadn't spoken maybe for 2 or 3 weeks before, in between us setting the appointment. Now, I now get my virtual assistant to ring ahead. I put them in my diary as unconfirmed appointments, and she will ring ahead 24 to 48 hours ahead and confirm with somebody that that's happening. So I can turn up. I wasn't losing a lot of time to it, but it was stressful just not knowing if that person was going to turn up. And I'm the kind of guy who'll get in the car, set off, and then think, wow, I don't even know if Michael's going to be there. I better give him a ring. Whereas she now does that, and it looks professional, and it means that I get cancelled on A, far, far less, and B, I get cancelled on 48 hours in advance, and I can fill that time with something more profitable and productive.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing was I was chatting with a client once on the phone as I was driving somewhere, had a great idea, put the phone down to him, rang and left a message for Amanda for a document that I wanted, creating a checklist. So here's what the checklist needs to say. Don't worry about the formatting. I'll format it, but just bang all these points down. Boom, there we are. Next thing I know, not next 3, 4, 5 hours later, whatever, but it's perfectly acceptable turnaround for me. There's that document that I can then sculpt into what I want. I'll have great ideas as I'm driving, and I can just ring her and leave a message saying, send me a message with call Robin, tell him this, that, and the other. So she becomes my kind of automatic to-do. I guess if you've got Siri, you might not need that, but I don't have Siri. What else does she do? It takes a bunch of personal admin off me. Order flowers, right. My wife, order a cake, do this, or coordinate that, all that sort of stuff, because that's not what I get paid. That's not what I pay myself to do. So I can pay her to do it, and it gets done perfectly, and actually better than I would do it. She does my invoicing, Michael. She does my invoicing. Honestly, it was the worst time of my month, weirdly, with invoicing and going to get just the admin. I told you I was low on details. Just the admin. Yeah. Oh man, it was just driving me insane. Especially when I do when I charge them just a few bucks here and a few bucks there. Just that noise of I just produce one spreadsheet, pop it like that, and not send it out to her, and it takes me about 5 or 10 minutes to do my invoicing instead of an hour and a half, and I do it a week late. I just really can't face it.
Right. So all the different things that may have been going on in your mind before, when you thought, okay, this is a great idea, this is something I need to get done, whatever it might have been that you would have had to have written down, initially by yourself, and like everyone, probably forgotten a great deal of that. Now you're able to kind of offload that to your assistant, and it gets done.
Absolutely. The things that have been, the moment I get done is that I have made a good idea for weeks.
Sorry, Rupert, you cut out there. I didn't hear what you said.
Sorry, I said the things that are good ideas in the moment get done, as opposed to them having to remain really good ideas for a whole week or 2 weeks for them to eventually rise to the top of my to-do list out of frustration.
Right. And what about the cost involved in something like this? Is it very expensive, or how does that work?
I won't say how much she charges me an hour, but I only hire her for half an hour a day. So you can imagine It's not a big expense.
No, okay. Very interesting. Okay, good. Let's get into today's action bite, which is feel, felt, found. So if you could explain to everyone listening what that is, how you use this concept and approach, and then maybe we can get into some examples as well.
Sure. Well, it's a great.
Okay. Well, Rupert, you just cut out there. So
sorry. Is that any better?
Yeah. I just need you to start again because we couldn't hear anything.
It's a great sales technique for people in our business, but all our clients too. And really, it's an empathy close. And it's like, you know what? I understand how you feel. If we get an objection or some resistance from somebody, I know how you feel. And I would feel that way if I was in your situation too, or I felt that way when I first I know how you feel. That's the first thing you do is acknowledge that they have feelings of resistance. Either I felt that way too when I was first presented with this challenge, or other people in your situation have felt exactly the same way too. Wow. Not only do they feel heard and understood, they now feel like it's not them, it's not about them. Other people felt like that. And then the killer is, but what we found, or what they found, is when they take this step, when they get this advice, when they get the coaching, or when they see the money come rolling in, what they found is it was a great investment of their time, energy, money, whatever it is we're asking them to commit to. So I know how you feel. I felt, or others have felt the same way. But what we found is, it's like, okay, my feelings are valid, my feelings are common, but they shouldn't let me stop me. But they shouldn't let me stop me because other people have found that they were unfounded or whatever. So feel, felt, found is a real killer tool to have in your box. If you're coming up against resistance, understand what it is that they're feeling, make it all right for them to feel that way, and with empathy, show that other people have felt like that, and tell people what's on the other side of that fear.
So how can people prepare for this? Is there a certain exercise that they can use, or any kind of preparation that they can go through to get better at this concept and implement feel, felt, found for themselves?
Sure. Well, if our clients aren't accepting our treatment plan, to use a dental analogy, aren't accepting our treatment plan, it's because they have a fear. basically. And we can predict, at least in clumps, of what those fears may be. So you just say, okay, I understand how you feel, and it's probably recognize the fear. Other people have felt that too. So it's really just go and sit for a while, 30 seconds or a minute, in your client's chair. And honestly, Michael, I'm sure you'll know this, if you have 2 chairs in your office, literally go and sit in the one the client sits in. And, walk a mile in their shoes. Sit there, understand how they would be feeling, and then come up with a script that suits the situation. I know how you feel. I would have felt, I did feel, or others have felt that way too. But what we found is to step through it is advantageous, is the best move, is whatever.
So this could almost be, people could kind of list out all the different experiences or, any kind of areas of resistance that they anticipate or they've come up against. Write those down, and then also look at some of the success stories that they've seen with other clients, and just kind of prepare those different stories and situations in their mind, so that way when they do come up against this kind of resistance, and they can then implement feel, felt, found by pulling in the right stories. Would that be a good way to do it?
Very much so. Yes.
Okay. Great. All right, Rupert. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the call today, and I hope everyone listening to this has received some great value from it. I think a lot of the information you've shared here will really resonate with many people. So again,
my pleasure
thank you.
Was all mine. I'm sorry if the reception was poor at times.
That's all right. We're glad to have you.
Thank
here.
you, Michael.
For more interviews, articles, and resources on consulting, visit Business Consulting Buzz at www.consulting-business.com.